Hello and welcome back to Mr. Cuervo Racing channel. Today I'm going to pull apart this Lectron billet carb, show you a couple features, what's going on with them, how to pull them apart and whatnot. First I'm going to show, obviously we got a fuel feed line here, comes into a spigot here off the side. This is using 1/4 inch inner diameter, 3/8 outer diameter. I use this fuel line called Tygon. Doesn't harden up like most. And these vent lines are the same material. Vent lines here as well as the power jet lines. This particular carburetor has two power jets. These are secondary fuel jets, where basically when this slide opens to the point where these are just tubes, when they are no longer blocked by the slide height, then air speed or airflow across them will siphon fuel out of the fuel bowl. So when a bike's sitting there at idle, you'll see fuel in this line, and you can inspect and see what your float bowl level is just sitting there. So that being said, let's pull out these jets. Let me show you what that's about. So inside here, I have these carburetors set up with fixed jets in them. Normally they come with a tapered needle seat style jet, or adjustable power jet, you'd call it. And that I don't use that setup for a few different reasons. One is mainly I can put a numerical value on how much fuel I'm getting with the small Mikuni pilot jet. Let's see, this one is I think that one says 25. It's hard to read, but that's what's inside this orifice. This tube would slide up out of here if I tapped on it to get it loose, and you can change the length of these tubes to alter how fast it's hitting that power jet with fuel. So that's a tuning tip for you guys that are messing with these, is you can alter that and either go longer or shorter and affect how hard that fuel hits. So so that's done there. On this particular carburetor, I put threaded barbs on here instead of the push-ins that they come with. It's a little bit more durable long run, because we are in our application, we go in, we pull these lines off to drain that bowl easier, just hanging it down and drain that bowl dry after use, and the push-in ones tend to pull out. So that's why I've done this on this one. We're gonna pull these off so I can pull this bowl off here in a second. Let's see. These lines here are just air vent lines, and they help balance the air pressure inside the bowl for when fuel is coming in. So let's actually start with pulling this top slide off. Got a 7/64. All the fasteners on these carburetors are standard or American, whatever you want to call it. And normally everything here, the fasteners coming from them are all stainless fasteners. So pulling this top, they call it top plate, pulling this top plate off, the slide will come with it. And let's see, they do have a gasket here. This one will probably rip because it's been on here a little while, maybe not. Come on. Alright, there it goes. So this slide is comprised of a few different, this slide assembly is comprised of a few different pieces. The needle itself, this one running a 9-5 R, and then the R and the 30 is associated with the length and how that's set up. But The 9 is the big end measurement, and the 5 is the short end, basically next to the slide, and that's going to change how much fuel it's getting. So basically these needles are ground at a taper, and they are adjustable. And how you adjust these is, there is a tool you can get to rotate these, but basically you twist that needle, and after you twist it, however much you're making an adjustment, this is mainly for idle, but say, come back to where we were, say this bike was, this motor was a little lean at idle, and we want to move this needle up, kind of how you would in a standard Mikuni style carburetor, or Kin style carburetor. But these needles are actually threaded and they screw. So if I wanted to richen it up, I would screw it clockwise, which would raise the needle. But after you do that adjustment, you come back and you can see this needle moves in and out. What we'll do is it has a 4-position cog inside this, where that needle goes into. This brass piece, if you ever need to change it, that does come out of there. It's a little, it gets trashed when you take it out, but that piece is replaceable. It basically has 4 positions where you can reclock that needle to whatever position. So as I'm spinning this like this, pushing it in and rotating it, that's not changing the needle height. That's only changing its orientation. So that's what's going on there. Some of the older slides are for different carburetors. They're 2-piece. This one's a 1-piece slide. You have markings on there that show the size and serial number. To pull the cable off, you got to pull back the spring. And then you can slide it out of there. It's got a really small end on it. So that's that with the slide. You can polish, deburr those if you're having any problems with the slide sticking or not. Normally it's a, if there's a slide sticking, either it's the cable or issue with fuel. Sometimes it's just a matter of taking some WD-40 and spraying the slide, working it a couple times, and it'll be back to normal. So on the other side here, you do have your idle adjustment screw. That is just catching on. That is just catching on the edge here of this slide, right on that tapered edge there. You see some marring. That's just catching there to change that slide height. So it is up out of the bore, so it's not impeding any airflow. So we're not going to touch that right now, but I am going to take this bowl off. So here it's a 5/32. This bowl is a multi-piece bowl. Has a bottom plate, center section, gaskets on both sides. It does have a bit of a galley there, a little baffle, so it maintains a fuel feed to that, as well as this area feeds these power jet lines. That recess there. So on fuel feed and float side, these floats have worked really well for all the carburetors that I've used. Standard inspection there. There is a pin that slides out to pull this off. So let me get that out. Pins out of there. Slide is adjustable, or the float is adjustable by modifying this tab, how it's bent, to modify that float height. Inside there we have the fuel needle and seat. This is similar to a lot of other carburetors. Has a coated tip on that one. So there's that there. I believe this is a there we go. 7/16. So these are, the needle and seat is does change depending on if you're running a pump or what fuel you're running through it, or there is higher volume feeds. These this is one of the smaller ones, which does work fine for us in this application, but it the bigger ones seem to have more issues keeping a good seat and not slowly filling the fuel bowl, you know, slowly seeping into the fuel bowl. At least in what I've dealt with, they have made some revisions on production on those. They do take a gasket at the bottom, and something I found is, and I'll make the modification to this one on these billet carbs. The let's see if I can get a picture of it. So that top thread comes all the way up, and what I found is that this needle and seat doesn't fully squish the gasket, because these aren't machined. See, it's got a bevel from the thread to the hex. That bevel sometimes bottoms out on the square edge of that thread. So if you bevel that edge a little bit, they will seal a little easier. If you're having an issue with fuel seepage. So this is just a foam screen for dirt. Being that this carburetor's ran for a year and a half, it doesn't have anything in it that I can see. We will clean that. Then it's got a plastic cage there, or a slide extension, whatever their exact purpose is on that. But so basically, you got a machined hole here. Normally this would be like a thread in emulsion tube, but that's machined a tight tolerance for that needle. So unlike other carburetors where you have a substantial slop between the needle and the emulsion tube, this one is a machine fit. But that's there's no idle circuit or anything on these carburetors. That's all it's about. They're really simple, but they're really well done, and for us they've worked extremely well. These are coated somewhat, I think it's like a clear anodie, so they don't mar or gall or fingerprint or anything. This is all really slippery material. But this carburetor, I'm just inspecting, cleaning it up. I'm gonna put it for sale because we are switching the engine build. But that's why I'm taking apart, show you guys what's going on with them. So there's not much to be scared or afraid of on these. These are really simple carburetors, easy to maintain, clean, get parts for, etc. So that's it for today. Thank you.